start this week's class by developing the canqueo. The canqueo is a pretty simple trap, but extremely dynamic, basically meaning that it's not a passive trap in any shape or form. On the contrary, it's a very ballistic and powerful trap, and is capable of great damage. And we will see, as always, it is the way in which the mind perceives something that will ultimately affect the way in which we approach the development of it. Hence, a clean slate every day, right? This is the only way we can learn properly. Now we see the same thing, but applied to the midline. It's easy to see that we can develop an extremely dynamic motion with this simple application, and it gives a good answer when applied well. But can you remember when we said before, simple doesn't mean easy? Many applications are simple, but are not always easy to master, because if they were, everybody would be a monster, and everybody would already have the answers. But it's just not the way. That's why most of us are on a journey of learning. Attacking the legs in this way gives us a different answer to that of the normal double leg takedown. It's different because we want it to be, and we need it to be, therefore it is. Ballistic trapping, or transit locking and wrenching, is a pure street mentality, and that's just because we have one objective in mind: stop the human body in its tracks. The words are easy, we all know that by now, but our attitude is the thing that will help us to cross the boundaries of the mind and help us to see things in a different light. Continuing with another development on the ground, we add the side kick into the matrix. In reality, the name of the kick is irrelevant, we're just learning the different angles and lines of attack, that's all. So let's make sure we have that bit very clear, so that we never get lost in the technique side of things, but understand that we're only concerned with the practicality and application of the thing that we are studying. Developing all the angles in all the areas now makes more sense, and in the end is totally obvious. But it's not always so obvious in the beginning, as we need to fight with our own mind and what we already believe to be right. Now when training with our partner, we learn what it is and how, but for obvious reasons, it's not possible to train this with a dynamic application. The technique once again is simple. The skill lies in the application and how to enter, and the entries are always an interesting subject of study. If we are clear that canqueo is an attack and not just a grab, then we will find the next connections pretty easily. It is a transit attack and not a body clinch, which is normally the way that this particular movement is usually used. When connected with all the other elements that we are learning, we start to establish a solid foundation plus a unique twist. It's the twist that is the elusive part, that's why everybody's looking for it. How to arrive at the legs via the information we've learnt so far should be easy for you to see now. We're only using the major basics like the direct elbow, the descending elbow and the overhand. Developing the applications is the essence and the spice of KFM. The essence gives a specific feel and flavour, and the spice, well, that just gives it an added twist to the whole thing. The kick itself is one thing, but how many other areas does it immediately open once we actually touch the opponent? Lots, eh? But in saying that, we can only open them if we can actually see them. So once again, the simple connection is only the beginning to a much bigger picture. We can connect and enter deeper into the conflict, or if the opportunity arises, retreat and disappear. Either way, the simple kick can provoke a universe of work and reward us with some very interesting finds. Now as we continue to climb with the work in this class, look how Justo enters with the ascending and descending kodo, then makes a canqueo and smashes the face of the opponent into the shoulder. This clearly aids in the takedown and damages the would-be assailant in the process. Once on the ground, Ruben must find his timing beat for the kick before escaping with a monoscala. If we watch carefully at the entry point again, we should be able to see a few more things that are in play now. Only because they're not the focus or the nucleus of the work right now, they may be overlooked. For example, the foot stomp is in play, as is the knee, only we are not emphasising them here, so they may go unnoticed if not mentioned. This next attack is shown in a raw format. It's a simple attack, but no, it's not just a leg pickup. If we look carefully, we can see where the penso ombro is in play, only it's not shown in its full glory here. But it should be relatively obvious to us by now that we are intent on attacking the knee, once that we've hit and attacked the leg itself. Last week, we took a first look at how to destroy Control 1. Now this week we look at Control 2 from underneath. This is only the beginning of the ground study, and there are 1,000,001 things for us to look at over the coming months. Obviously there will be lots and lots of questions, especially if you already have some previous ground training. Note how the Garamona is a major weapon of choice when on the ground. Simple yet extremely effective. It's very important that we don't confuse this work with set drills. This work is basic isolation training, meaning it is designed to accumulate flying hours with the new pieces of information that we're trying to learn. It is not a drill to follow in a fixed and set manner, but as always in the beginning we must start somewhere. But in saying that, once we have the work down, we must start to free play and mix the work in order to keep the action-reaction instinct buzzing and not slip back into any kind of comfort zone. There are so many ways in which this work can and is developed. Unfortunately, in a single video class, we can only show one simple way of the many and varied ways that we actually use to continue developing all of this work. Extracting more applications from what everybody supposedly already knows is quite a challenge. But this is the path that we have chosen, and it's a very rewarding one, because once we open our eyes and our minds, but truly, not just in words, it's amazing what is sat right in front of us, just waiting to be exploited. Remember how we've spoken about the comparison between musical scales and training exercises in the past? Well, this is now a perfect example. This exercise is like a musical scale. It has all the right notes, in our case basic applications, but we're not actually playing a tune yet. We will spend the rest of our lives developing this part. The simple grab, or candado as it's known, can operate in all areas and in all levels. When we can use this simple thing, but everywhere, then it starts becoming something special. When you do that, I do this kind of mentality. It's just so out of touch with the reality of things. We need the ability to respond with whatever we feel, and when we can apply this simple application but in many different ways due to the physical question being asked, then we have the foundation of a genuine ability on our side. These next two exercises are the conclusion of the work in this class with one opponent. We need to spend a fair amount of time here in order to make sure that we have the work down before we throw it into the predator exercise. Try and list everything that you see in this exercise, and are you catching the correct names yet? Visual study is sometimes very enlightening, as we often pick up on small things that sometimes slip by us. Because this is week 8 of the orange grade, you should have accumulated a fair old few hours training outside by now. This means that you will be getting a much better feel for the straight, kind of clothing that we usually wear, and the kind of footwear we like to use. These are the things we spoke about earlier, and we could all acknowledge them, but now we should be really feeling them. And if we are, then this is a big jump in our training and our ability. And it probably means that we're having a really good time with this kind of training, and that's just really cool, or what? We just spoke about the musical relation with our training. I would like to give another analogy of that. In the past, I used to really follow the guitar heroes of rock. I was fascinated with the flair and creativity that spawned from some of these pioneering guitar heroes. For example, the way Eric Clapton would play a particular scale was vastly different to the way in which Eddie Van Halen would play the same scale, yet it was the same set of notes. It was their personal expression that made them so different, not the musical notes. The same is true of our training. We may all have the same application development, but the way in which we will actually express ourselves, well, that will be totally your flavour. We are all different, both physically and emotionally, and this will reflect in the way that we express ourselves on all of our wear. It takes about 1 minute to complete one cycle of the Predator exercise, give or take. The boys usually work the Predator in 3-minute rounds, meaning that each person has to fight in the middle 3 times. If we work on a 3x3 basis, we will be training exactly the kind of fight stamina that we desire. Remember, we've said many times before, if you want to get really good at doing something, then just do that thing, and you'll probably get really good at doing it. How many people go off and do everything, but the thing they're trying to improve on, it doesn't make sense, all with the illusion that all the other things that they are doing will make them better at exactly the one thing they're not spending enough time doing at all. If we want big biceps, we do bicep curls, not leg squats. Well, our mentality is the same. If we want to get fighting fit, then we just need to spend lots of time in the Predator, and we will get really fit and environmentally conditioned. And it will be exactly the kind of fitness and conditioning that we actually want. Let's just watch as the boys blast through the last piece of this class, and make sure you train sensibly and with a good respect for your fellow training partners. Damaging people unnecessarily is totally out of order. Plus, all your training partners will lose confidence in you. And don't forget, your training partners are the people who are there to help you. So respect for each other is very important, as they are allowing you to train and practice on their body. Till next week, train hard but train intelligently.